Welcome back to Crochet Along with Miss Carol. I am Carol Leeson from the Bloomingdale Public Library, and today we are going to look at the crochet skill of the single crochet. I have been teaching crochet for quite some time now, and I have found that it is easier to learn how to do a single crochet if you are crocheting into an already started project. So you're crocheting into other single crochet stitches instead of into that foundation chain that we learned in the very beginning video in this series. So if you know somebody who knows how to crochet, I would highly suggest that you ask them to crochet a length of, or a swatch, a length of crochet or a swatch in 10 stitches across, 2 rows deep, and start the first couple of stitches on your third row. That way you can practice into a stitch that it's easy to see where you're going to put your hook, and you can concentrate on how to create the single crochet. If that's not possible, go ahead and fast forward. At the end of this video, I will show you how to crochet into the chain that we learned how to create on the last video. If you haven't watched that one, please do so at the Bloomingdale Public Library YouTube page called Crochet Skills with Miss Carol, Making a Foundation Chain. So if you have your swatch all ready to go, you're going to put your hook here into the loop, and you're going to put your hook through this hole. We turn our stitch this way. You can see there are 2 pieces of yarn. There's a loop that it makes. So there's that raindrop shape that we saw again. And some people will call it a V because it makes a V this way with the point going down. You want your hook to go through that hole under those both pieces of yarn. You're going to yarn over, bringing your yarn from the back to the front, catching it with the hook of the crook in your hook. It's like a nursery rhyme. And you're going to guide that yarn through that hole and bring your hook up. You want to have 2 loops on your hook. Now we're ready to do the second part of our stitch. So the single crochet has 2 parts. One is bringing the loop through the stitch that you're working in. Then you're going to yarn over and guide that yarn through both loops. Now I want you to notice here that they've got those upside down teardrops or raindrops. The point of my hook is facing down towards the point or the V in those loops, so that when I pull my hook through, it comes through evenly, and it gives me another loop. And we're going to look and see that, yes, I can see light through that V in my raindrop. And I'm going to do that again. Go through the stitch, yarn over, and pull it up so I have 2 upside down raindrop loops. If I were to try to pull it through this way, you'll see that I'm going to catch on those loops. Or if I only do this way, I'm going to catch on those loops. When you catch that loop, you want to rotate your hook so it rotates towards you and pulls through both loops easily. That hook is designed so it just fits in those loops. If you, well, let me get through here the stitch again. If you rotate your hook away from you, that way you'll lose the yarn that you're trying to pull through. So rotate it towards you. Make sure it's pointing down and go through both loops. I have found a little story that helps some of my students learn is to pretend you're a shepherd and this is your shepherd's hook. You're going to catch that lamb. This is your fence. Your lamb is on the other side of the fence. So you're going to go through the fence, bring the yarn over, catch your lamb and guide it back on this side of the fence and hold it there. So you have 2 loops or little lambs on your hook. There's another lamb over there. This time you're going over the top of your fence to catch that lamb and bring it over and bring it in with the rest of the flock going through both loops on your hook. So remember, the first time you go through the fence, catch your lamb and guide it back. The second time you go over the fence, catch your lamb and guide it back to the flock through both loops. So we're going to go through the stitch again, bring the yarn back and give myself 2 loops. Catch your lamb or your yarn again, yarning over and through both loops. We're going to do that again. Oops. And again. Now, I don't have any more stitches to go through. I am at the end of my row. So I'm going to do a chain. I'm going to yarn over and pull through that loop on my hook, giving myself 1 chain. This is called a turning chain, and we're going to do just that. We're going to turn my work. Here is my next stitch, and I'm going to do another single crochet, just like that. Now, I mentioned in the first video that I like to use stitch markers. And I'm going to put that stitch marker right there. What that helps me know is that when I come back the other way, this is my last stitch. Sometimes, and especially when you get into more complicated stitches, it's hard to tell the difference between your last stitch and your turning chain. So I know this is the last stitch that I want to crochet in. That will help me keep my sides nice and straight. So with that in place, I'm going to continue crocheting. And my hook, see, even my hook falls out. I've been doing this for 25 years and sometimes I have to put my hook back up. There we go. Single crochet. It's not a race. You want to do it slowly and easily. Speed will come when your fingers have created some muscle memory. But right now, we're more interested in keeping our stitches even and loose so that we can work through them. And there you go. Single crochet into a already started swatch, into an existing single crochet. I'm going to leave you now to practice that. If you are starting with the chain because you didn't have anybody to do a single crochet swatch for you, that's fine. Stay with me and we're going to learn how to crochet into the chain right now. All right, thank you for being patient with me. Here we go. This is a chain that I've created. It's nice and even, and look at my stitches are nice and loose so that I can work into them. If your stitches are too tight, continue practicing chains until you have stitches that you can easily put your hook through. First of all, let's look at our chain. I'm going to give myself room so I don't pull that out. And we're going to take a look at this chain and see the different parts of each stitch. I'm going to look at the second stitch from the hook. This first one, we were talking in the first part of this about a turning chain. This is our turning chain, and we're going to leave that one alone. So we're looking at the second chain from the hook. There are 3 lengths of yarn that make up the stitch. This is your front loop. It's the one that is facing your body. This is the back loop, or the other side of that loop, which is the one facing away from your body. And then you have the piece that comes up from the bottom and slides into the next loop or the next stitch. If we turn this over, you'll see that that creates a little bump on the bottom of our stitch. When you are beginning, you can work into various places of your chain, and you'll want to find what is easiest for you. I would suggest you start by either working into this back loop or the bump on the back. I'm going to show you how to work into the bump on the back. And since working into a chain can be frustrating, even for experienced crocheters, I prefer to start my students off working into one of those 3 places, not through 2. So I'm going to insert my hook through that back bump, yarn over, guide my yarn through, if you'll remember our story about the little lamb. Now I have 2 lambs on my hook, or 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over again and guide, holding that point down, guide my loop through both loops that are on my hook, and I have created my first single crochet. With that, you may want to put a stitch marker in there so when you're coming back, you'll know where that first one was, which will be your last one on the next row. And we move to the next bump. I'm going to go through the bump, yarn over, bring it up, go through both stitches on my hook, through the bump, yarn, bring it up, through both stitches. And we do that all the way down to the end of my chain. And you slide that back in if it flats out. Make sure that you keep your work even and loose. It's important that you want to keep your stitches loose, or they'll be difficult to work into when you come back. The whole idea of crochet is that you are interlocking your yarn to itself by using slip stitches or slip knots, basically. And if you can't get back into what you've already worked, then it's very difficult to create what you want to create. So I'm at the very end of my row, and I take a look back, and you can see that I've created 1 row of single crochet. I need to turn around, so I want to make that turning chain. Just yarn over and pull through that 1 loop. Now I still have 1 loop on my hook. I'll flip my work over and work into that first stitch and continue making single crochets back the way I came. And you'll see that as I have been doing this, my hands will yarn, or not yarn over, I want to go through this. Pull it up, and we see my fingers already coming up and putting that. If you are worried about getting the stitches in the right order or the steps in the right order, or you're really frustrated or working on keeping that tension, make sure you slow down and do each step individually. Make sure your hooks, you'll see how my loops are back here before it starts to waver or starts to taper on my hook. If I hold them up here, then it's difficult for me to work with. So I want to keep those loops between where my fingers naturally hold the hook and where it tapers down, so that I have a good length of hook to work with the yarn that I'm pulling into. Now you'll notice I keep wanting to yarn over, and we'll learn about that in the next video where we learn about half double crochets. Have fun crocheting. Spend at least 10 minutes a day practicing these skills before you move on to the next one. And give yourself time. This is hard. Not everybody knows how to crochet. It takes time to learn and it takes time to practice, but you can do it. Keep up the good work and meet me back here at Crochet Skills with Miss Carol. Happy crocheting.